I love it, and it's bright orange and blue. And so I walk into my aquarium home, and it's just like the first thing I see. And it's so great, and the color is so stunning, and it's like right by my office at home. Yeah, if you like it, I won't say if you like it, it's good, but if you like it, that means it has value for you. Well, here's what we say: we say it's cute for you. Exactly.
Okay, now I'm going to share. But it's something that it's technical enough that if you aren't doing it regularly, you need to make sure you're checking all your boxes, so to speak. So I came back to Coldwell Banker in 2017, at the end of 2017. And before that, I was selling up at Purg and their manager at Durango Mountain Realty for about 2 years. So we were dealing with everything from timeshares and fractionals. They do have timeshares up there, but you'll never see them on the market because they're worth nothing. There's quarter shares, there's eighth shares, there's all sorts of stuff up there. And you get to be good at all of it when someone doesn't show up for their floor shift and you have to be the floor person on a holiday. So I was doing everything. And over that couple of years, Phil Waymeyer and Annie Simonson really helped me understand the market up there, and they're very, very gracious and good people. I added Rachel Brinley to that office, and she's amazing to work with. So if you get a chance to do deals with any of those people, well, Annie is no longer up there, but at least with Phil, who Marcy is working with right now, and Rachel, they do a really, really good job up there, and they will welcome you. And just like with I used to, if you're ever at Purgatory and the Wi-Fi stinks and you need to just sit somewhere and make a phone call, just run in there. They're open on Saturdays, and they'd be happy to help you with, trying to help your customer. So let me go to the next slide, see if this works. There we go. So I'm going to do an overview of the different neighborhoods. We call SISO is ski in, ski out. There's single family, townhomes, condos, and what's new up there versus, meaning like hasn't been built in the 70s versus what is been built more recently. The areas that Durango Mountain Master Association serves, what it is and what it costs, and then what buyers are looking for, what HOA costs might be and how they differ from one HOA to the next, and then renting out a property, best and worst case, and how you can show your client what would make a good investment. Loans and other things to consider. That is where I'm getting a little rusty. So Marcy, for example, if you know more, or anybody that's been doing deals up there knows more than me with what current knowledge is with loans, please interrupt and tell me. And then there isn't too much I'm going to update you on sales, because if you have questions about more recent events, you're probably going to want to reach out to Jamie Marquez in the office, who she took my position after I left, and now she's at Coldwell for the last couple of years. She can help with what is more current knowledge than I am as far as the new improvements at Purg and things like that. So this is the old master plan, and this is what as a whole went through the county to be approved at once, so that the developers and the owners back in the day could understand, like, what do we have up here? How many total home sites, which was 2,000-ish at the time, right? 2,000 home sites up here. Where was everything allowed to be, and what were the different areas? Like, you'll see areas, see these could be developed someday, area F. And so we refer to them as, oh yeah, okay, so maybe we're going to put area F on the market in a couple of years. So what happened, let me give you a little background. So Purgatory back in the day was purchased by a group of people. One of them happened to be old ownership of Purgatory from way, way back, like Duncan family kind of ownership. That's a long history ago. There's a great book out that tells the 50-year history of Purg. Then Chuck Cobb and his, I'll call them brethren, his friends, his people who happened to sit on the Disney Corporation back in the day, like the board of directors people, they got together. And that's why, like, there's this old, I think like Disney bought them or something. It was the guys who happened to be doing that. They did a lot of real estate development. Chuck Cobb, they've written books about Chuck Cobb and how he's developed places that had been considered wastelands, maybe in Florida or somewhere else. And he had created a really nice, livable community there. They were the people that had bought Purgatory back in the day. They changed the name to Durango Mountain Resort. And then when James Coleman purchased Purgatory, which would be about 5-6 years ago, right before I went up there. So what Coleman did is, this is kind of the basic history, and what I understand is, this is like, so you have national forests, right? And then they have the permission to operate all of Purgatory, which is right here. That's that's where everybody's skiing, right? And then you have lifts around here too, the kids section and the learn to ski section. And then you have other things back here, like eventually they want a chairlift here, or maybe they have some stuff going on now. So what happened is Coleman was trying to make offers on the whole thing. And he said, you know, this is kind of complicated. I'm just going to buy the ski resort for now, and I'll come back for the rest. And then what happened is he did buy the ski resort. He didn't come back for the rest. So I worked for Chuck Cobb, who still owned all this land that wasn't sold off already, right? And then Coleman operated in the middle of it. So little by little, Coleman has offered to purchase little parts of it that you'll see, but the rest still belongs to the old developer, as far as I understand. So this was all divvied up and divided up and decided upon by the county and the development crew that brought this to the county, of what was allowed. Okay, so orange, just think orange is townhomes. You have green and yellow. There were very few single family homes. They wanted more density, right? So you have these beautiful ski in, ski out estates. Anything up here is ski in, ski out. You can ski. I mean, this is like serious skiing if you come over this way, but you can ski in. You can't really ski out yet. They always planned that you could ski. It's not going to happen, but you can at least ski into your homes. Same with this kind of stuff. Yes, there's stairs and things like that, but you could ski to Elk Point. You could ski and just take your skis off and walk into Alice Village. I think I can't remember what it's called. Village something. There's Purg Lodge right here. That's like right in the plaza. And then you have these other areas that you could get to from the little shuttle. So again, orange, you have, okay, white. White is the area that is kind of, you consider it like unincorporated, right? They weren't part of DMMA. So everything that's part of this conceptual master plan that's not in white, they all are part of this master association that helps run the whole thing, right? So there's like HOAs, there's the master association, which is separate. And then these white parts, I don't understand, because I think Elk Point really is part of the master association. Maybe that happened later because that's new. Okay. But this is the old stuff. So this started to be built. I'm talking Angel House. What are some of the other ones? Let me see it. Oh, can you? Brimstone, all of Edelweiss, all of that is in this little turnaround here. Those started to be built in the 70s. So like you actually need a lead paint disclosure on some of them. They're that old. And then you have the little, I think they're like blue right here. Those are really cool. But anyway, those are kind of cheaper and they don't necessarily, they aren't necessarily part of DMMA. Most of the owners buy into it, but you can find some that aren't. So don't always assume that anything over here would be part of DMMA. We'll talk about that in a bit. But this over here, so you have the road back here, right? So these people, the Summit, which I have not seen one of those turnover in a long time, but there's very few of them that were built on gorgeous well, now it'd be like $3-4 billion homes. They are snowmobile in and out. And the people who are there really love snowmobiling, and they can go way up towards, Rico up there. A lot of this was purchased during the time that I was up there. So we closed on Boyce. All of Boyce sold to one person down here that retained the right to develop it someday, but probably won't. That's where the cross country skiing is. It goes all the way into here. Tacoma. This is I think this is all built out. And then this is what Jamie was selling a couple years back. And that's all built out. I think now Black Bear Condos, if it isn't sold, this part is on the market now or was or something. Like I said, I'm not that updated with it, but this is probably going to all be sold out very quickly. And then this is built on now. And that's that pretty lake that's around. And then you have like the areas, there's a substation here. You have the areas that go right into Purg Flats. Any questions on this map? Okay, DMMA, Durango Master Association. So think of DMMA as like the thing that everyone wants to be part of that's not your HOA. So it's not like your electric bill. It's not your trying to get your Wi-Fi in your building, that kind of thing. But what it does do is your owners who own have access to and Heather, you're on the call and you are a member, right? So clarify if I'm wrong about any of these things, because again,
I'm not, I'm
you're
on
not?
the, I'm on
Okay.
the wait list. Cause there's
Okay,
a
got
like
it.
2.5 year wait list right
Yep.
now.
which is kind of cool because they didn't have that back in the
Yeah.
day. So there's a pool, there's a hot tub, there's a fitness facility, locker room, there's a shuttle. So you can just call and you're not ready to go to the mountain yet, but you live in Engineer Village. You call the shuttle, and I don't know what it's doing now, but at the time a few years ago, it actually came to your door because it was just easier. And at the way it would work is they tried doing it every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes or so, but it can change, right? What they did when I was up at Purg is they said, we're not going to do a set schedule. We're just going to keep driving around, or if you call, we'll come to your house. We're not going to like only come to your house at 10:30 and 11 o'clock, that kind of thing. They just tried to make it as easy as possible. And it was in summer and winter. So you want to go just not have to take your car over to Purg. You want to go to Bouncy House or something, you could just call for a ride from Engineer. So this was all for the owners, right? Tennis. There's some classes like wreath making or wine pairing or any of that at the facility that they had up there. If you check the DMMA website, it's like DMMA. It's I don't have it with me, but it's hard to find it sometimes on Google because of what they called it. But the classes are actually kind of cool, especially during the Christmas time when you have a lot of families coming to town. They'll have events. And you can allow your renters, if you are part of DMA, to also have these cool things, right? But there's an extra charge. So you can either allow your renters to have it or not allow your renters to have it. And they'd probably be kind of pissed. Like, oh my God, I thought I'd have use of the pool and I'm here and I can't use it. Okay. But only the owners get to use the club dinings facility. So they don't want renters in there. They want it to be somewhere that it doesn't become kind of like Purdy's or something where you can see other people that you know, the game room. So you feel safe. Your kids are just playing games while you're drinking wine in the other room. It's really beautiful. Nordic facilities, the discounts. So you have discounts on, maybe getting your ski gear up there, and they have tons of meet and greets. So I would get to go to all these meet and greets with the owners. And it was a fun time. So they did a really good job. Maybe you're a DMMA member, and I remember I used to do the tours. I wanted to be good at the tours. So if you had a customer that was showing one of my listings, I could go up there and show them DMMA. So know that if you don't understand DMMA, make sure when you're up there, if you're showing anything that has the master association with it, you call the Durango Mountain Realty, you call them DMMA. But if they don't have someone, you can have like Phil Waymeyer or Rachel Brindley, if it's one of their listings, say, hey, could you give my clients the tour? We're going to be there at 10:30. And then go with them. So you also can understand all this stuff. It's good to know these things. But I would love to say when I went into the club, it's like, it's so nice to just come into the club and there's a special kind of wine or a special kind of drink that you want them to stock for you. So you come often and you want that wine, they will do things like that for you. They're very kind. So what it costs, okay, is 2% at closing. So you are part of DMMA and you own a village center unit. It closes for $500,000. There is 2% in there that is paid by someone at closing, and that gets you into the club. Now, is it a buyer's cost? Is it a seller cost? It was traditional when I was up there before the market was hot for it to be split by the buyer and seller, right? But we're in a different market. So just know as the market changes, who pays for things changes too. So I would assume in this market, you're seeing more, and Marcy would be able to speak to this. I'm assuming you'd see more that the buyer pays it because you're like, well, I'm not paying it. Have the buyer pay that. There's also a yearly fee that's based on the lot and the home value. So you have, there's actually a chart, and I was able to access it, and I bet everybody probably can if you looked long enough on their website. So once a year, they'd come out with an assessment. And at the time, again, things might have changed in the last 4 years. The most that your $3 million home would be assessed would be $2,000. So even at that, you have a really expensive home at Purg, your DMMA membership costs a certain amount a year. And it was like $2,000 was the most. So let's say you had a itty bitty house up there that happened to be part of DMMA. You don't have a very expensive, they figure out their budget and then they divide it by square footage because they assume that the more square footage you have, the more people can stay in your house and the more you're going to use the club. So that's why they do it the way they do it. So it's actually a pretty good deal, in my opinion. if you are in Angel House and you're closing on something for 250, 300 to buy into DMMA, the old stuff at Purgatory was not a part of DMMA, but most people, when they sell, like if you bought your place in the 70s, you're like, I don't need DMMA. It's just like, I'm not going to pay any extra. But if you're buying now, most people say, I know I have the option to not be in DMMA, but I'm going to pay in at closing. Once you're in, you can't opt out. So all of those old buildings, if someone over the years opted into the DMMA, you can just check in the MLS, are they a DMMA member, but know that they can buy in at closing. So there is that, there is that fee. And then, yeah, I explained that. Oh, that's the website. Look at me, thedmma.com. That's why I can never find it. There's something else that's DMMA and it has nothing to do with Durango. So
Can you send us these slides when we're done? Is that
absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely. So, any questions so far about DMMA? I'm sure I'm gonna like they can keep their skis in a little ski locker. You can have them all nice and warm. You don't have to like shuffle them on the shuttle. I guess there's no place for it. Make sure I come back to what the Pinnacle, I guess I'll just explain it now since I have no place to do it otherwise. So in Purg Lodge itself, the bottom 4 floors, or I should say the in-between 4 floors or 3 floors, those are all either fully owned or fractional. So you can have like an 8th share fractional. That's like, don't sell a fractional. If you don't know what you're doing with a fractional, please refer it to somebody up at the resort, or actually Jamie. Jamie will take them and sell them all day. So give it to her. You might ask for a small referral, but they're usually so cheap that you're not going to get much. Have her treat you to a nice lunch or something. But yeah, fractionals, let's not even get into that. It's too complicated. They were fun for me to sell, kind of, but I was the only one that would sell them because everybody in the office like put their nose up like, I'm not selling a fractional. So it was like Heather would have 10 of these fractionals listed at the same time and trying to like fill in on floor and everything else. Oh my gosh, back in the day, Phil will never sell a fractional. But the 5th floor of Purg Lodge, you have to have a special, so anybody who's in the club, you have like a key to like a card, like in a hotel, you got like a little card to get in. But then anybody who's on the Pinnacle, the 5th floor, those are the massive ones. Those are the penthouses. They're 2,000 square feet. Okay, so there are 8 of them. 4 are fully owned and 4 are 8th shares. And they have their own thing going on up there. They got a concierge. They have who will be like, oh, do you need me to arrange your taxi from the airport? And oh, you need a doctor's appointment. Are you here? Or, do you want me to call in your prescription for you? They do that stuff for you. Part of the fee, and it's very expensive to own them, but it's for someone who could live anywhere. They just want to travel to Purg. So there's a whole rotating, like who gets to have what week. It's very complex. If you're selling one of them, just make sure if it's a fractional that please involve Jamie. I'm not going to help you anymore because I've been too far removed. But anyway, so they have wine and cheese when you get off the mountain. It's just for the people at the Pinnacle. They have a special card to get up to their level. They have their own hot tub that only people up there can. Yes, you can still rent them out and stuff, but just know it's a totally different ballgame up there. Those are like the big CEOs will stay up there and things like that. Or over Christmas, you have huge families will go up there and, fit their 16 people. I know there's a maximum of people you can fit in there, but they're expensive, but man, they are really nice. Okay, so what are buyers looking for? So there are 3 different kinds of resort buyers. Value. I just want a place. So if I go to, I live in Farmington, we have a ton of Farmington owners, and they come up and they just want a place to crash so they can go out to Purgies, have a great time, and not have to struggle with the peloton of cars that's coming back to Farmington every day, right? Just want something cheap. Just give me the cheapest thing. I don't want to be part of DMMA. Like, is there an Angel House available kind of thing? There's the people who come up there and they're looking to make some income. So they want the income to offset them owning it, right? They'll come up there thinking they're going to make money and they're not, but at least they'll understand that that is their main focus is I want the thing that can make me the most money. I'm willing to buy an Elk Point for over $1 million, but I have to have the one that's facing the ski slope because I want it to rent better and I want to have the numbers behind it. Whereas, the value person doesn't care about that. They just need a place to crash. You've got the income-minded person, and then you have the convenience person. that says, I don't want someone staying in my house when I'm not there, so I'm not going to rent it out. I just want to have like this beautiful place and I can ski right into it and I can relax with my family. My grandkids can come up for Christmas. We're going to lock it up for the rest of the year. I don't care what I spend. I want the experience, right? So it's so important for you to really understand, never, ever, in any kind of real estate, but especially up at Purg, don't ever put yourself in someone else's shoes. I learned this so quickly in showing property. You think the place is like, oh my God, who would buy this place? And they're like, it's perfect. So just keep your mindset out of it. Oh, makes a great rental. And they're like, but I don't want to rent it. I don't want somebody sleeping in my bed. So make sure you have a lot of qualifying questions. What is most important to you? Why are you thinking about this purchase? And then once you know what drives them, you can point them to the right thing. But if you start talking about the investment behind it and they don't care about the investment behind it, you've lost them. It has somewhat to do with a personality, but not really. It's more just like what they want to do. And vacation renters are the kinds of people, or vacation purchasers are the ones that, like, the agents up there will tell it. Phil Laymeyer, I bring him up at least twice a week. I really loved working with him because he shook my world in real estate. I think of things a certain way. And he's like, that's not how it is. Like, I do it this way. I'm like, oh, that's valid too. Like, there's different ways to slice bread. But he would be able to, someone gets off the lift, they come at lunchtime and they say, you know, I'm thinking we're having a great time. My family's having fun. They're just kind of looking around the lobby, and he gets them and starts talking to them, gets a good rapport. He goes, how about take a couple more runs and we'll go see something when you're off the mountain, you know, like just come back at 4 o'clock or whatever you want to. I have the key. Don't worry about it. I'll come back. He's making it easy for him. He goes in 10 minutes. He goes and shows them a few places because you can walk to all your showings up there. How nice would that be? And then he comes back to the office and I'm like getting ready to leave. And there he is. He goes, go get a glass of wine, come back in half an hour, or I'll go meet you over there and we'll sign the contract. And he'd sell them because you knew you had to sell them before they got on the plane. Because once they left the building, so to speak, that feeling of like euphoria of all their family coming together, you get back to normal life. It's like the people who come into our office and they're heading back to Dallas tomorrow. They had a great time in Purg. You're like, oh, that's great. You're probably not going to buy for 3 months. So that's cool. Here's some information, go home. And then they ghost you. They never talk to you again. It's because they kind of like got over it. They went back home and said, we don't need to spend that money. So which areas rent better? These are the kind of, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Things to keep in mind. Obviously, if you can ski right into something, that is going to rent awesome. Be careful because you have to be on it. Please be honest with people, but there are ones out there that technically, yes, you could ski in, but like, oh, here's an example. That white part that I was showing you, the older stuff, they'll call that ski in, ski out, because you technically could kind of come up to the parking lot and then kind of walk around. But if you've been up there in the winter, like, it looks beautiful in the summer. Oh yeah, I bet you could ski right into it. But then in the winter, that's where they dump all the snow. So there's literally like a 12-foot hill, and you'll see some of the renters or the owners, they're like, their kids in them are trying to climb the hill so they can get right to Purg, but like, it's a schlep. You're trying to get over from Angel House. It's not easy. So be careful that you go up there in the summer and you're like, oh yeah, I bet you could ski right in there. Just make sure you know what it's like up there before you start telling people stuff like that. I noticed that with downtown agents. I'm like, you can't ski into that. Please don't tell them that. Or it's a smoker. Like, that's another example. You have people who are super out of shape and they have this idea of like, oh, I'm going to just walk to the slope, and you explaining, I know it might not seem like very far, but you have your gear and you're trying to get over there, and just know it actually is kind of hard to do. Newness of the building. Absolutely. If you're doing like a village center or Kendall, one of the ones that's right in the plaza, those are not going to be as expensive renting because they were built in like what, the early 90s, I guess. To those, the rating of the unit. So let me tell you about the ratings. You can rent with whoever you want, unless you're a Pinnacle. I think the Pinnacles, you have to go through Purg Lodge. There's certain, maybe if you're in Purg Lodge, I'm not sure, but I think you can rent to anyone as long as you're not in the Pinnacle up top. But the rating of the unit, so the Purgatory rentals, there's different management companies. Purgatory Rentals has a rating system. I'm sure a lot of the bigger companies probably do it too. A through F, and you're not going to be one of their units if you're not A through C. Okay. And so an A unit, every year they come out with the new qualifications, and you need everything on the list. It's like 80 items in order to be an A unit. Had to have a bathroom remodeled in the last X number of years, had to have the kitchen remodeled in the last X number of years. Your mattress can't be more than X number of years old. You have to have one, I'm just making this up. I can't remember anymore. You have to have at least one king mattress and one queen, or, you know, like the size. Your TV has to be a flat screen, and it has to be have this capability. Like, so every year they upgrade it because they want people to continue to update their units. If you ever, okay, so then B's would be like, it could, you know, it's not perfect, but it's fine. And then the C's, you're like, oh God, this really, you know. So the reason they do that, and then when they rent them out, they will only rent the A units until the A units are gone. And then they will rent B, and then they will rent C. And the reason behind that, you can't just call and say, I want a C unit, because what they found back in the day is you have two families coming to Purg from wherever, Arizona, for the holidays. The one guy wants to be kind of cheap. He's minding his money. His friend isn't. So the friend in the C goes over to the friend in the A and goes, well, my place sucks, you know? So he forgot that he saved like $200 a night. He just remembered how nice the other one was. And so he gives a bad review, and they said, you know what, we're done with this system. Years ago, they did it. So they're only renting A's until they're gone. And so if you have an A unit, it is worth having an A unit, because you know you're going to rent a lot better. Those C units only going to rent when it's like peak season, right? So it really does matter. And you'll also know as an agent, they're just as busy as we are down here, and things slip through the cracks. So the guy that did the lodging, I think he's still there. He'd be like, oh yeah, I got to go over to Cascade and re-rate those units. I meant to do that a couple years ago. So you go into these Cascade units, and you're like horrified that they're just like icky, right? Icky. And it says it's a B, or it says it's an A, and you'll know better. Like, you'll walk into one and go, okay, well, it says it's an A unit. So be careful about telling your client, oh, you want to buy this one because it's an A. Make sure that when was the last time, it only is a phone call to call the lodging and say, hey, when was the last time you rated this unit as an A? Like, is there a chance that my buyer would buy it? And then a month later, they re-rate the unit and it went to a D, and they're not going to rent it again until you upgrade it a little bit, right? So be aware that that stuff happens. I was always shocked when I found out new things like that. Amenities. So yes, if you are paying for access to the pool, you're going to get a higher rent. And then summer versus winter. So back to that map that I had. So Black Bear's right across the street, and I can't remember which is which, but I think it was that if you can ski into your condo, then you're going to make more in the winter, obviously, right? But if you're across the street, you're going to make more in the summer because you're surrounded by these pretty trees. You don't have the craziness of the plaza and everybody hanging out in the plaza. It's just a little quieter. Same with Engineer Village. It might be kind of like hard to get over there in the winter. It's a nice house, but you're going to rent a lot better. If the 2 bedrooms, for example, 2 bedrooms is what I'd always push people to do at the time. I used to always talk to the guy in the rental place, and I said, so what rent's better? And they actually have charts up at my office up there, my old office, that would say, this is what they charge for the rentals in Purg Lodge or in Kendall. And it'd be like, you know, $300 a night during these weeks, and it's $250 a night. So you can get those kind of charts probably from someone to give to someone and say, this is what it actually would rent for. But it's interesting that, like, if you have a really large house, don't assume it's going to rent better, because people don't want to pay for a really large house. And you will find that when you have a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom, that 2 bedrooms rent way better than anything else. Because even if you really should get a 3 bedroom, your family's probably going to try to save a little money and push everybody into a 2 bedroom and make it work, right? Rather than renting a 3 bedroom. So it's amazing how much better those 2 bedrooms work. And then the 1 bedrooms rent all day when, you know, let's say it's summer and you have somebody that wanted to go backpacking all week. They came from Chicago and it's raining, and they just show up at Purgatory and say, I just need a place to crash. I'm just going to stay here all week. I'll be fine. So they rent real well in the summer for things like that. Maybe not as much in the winter, but they're still, you know, they're okay. But 2 bedrooms is, I was like, if you can afford it, go for the 2 bedrooms. That's what it was. And then number of bedrooms. Okay, I said that, summer versus winter. The best case scenario is that you have a cool place to own and stay, and you're going to break even if you don't have a loan. Okay. So if you are paying cash, you probably can break even on your investment with all the DMMA fees and all the fees of the HOAs and all those kind of stuff. Don't ever think you're going to make money on a purgatory investment. Because remember, they go up in value, but man, they go down in value. 40%, 45% down in value, some of those places. And it was like 15 years of coming back. So we even have an agent in the office who had invested in something up there. And it was like, oh my God, just trying to get it sold for them or other people that I had that they're like, I just want to get out of this investment. I paid $300,000 for this lot. I will take 80,000. I just want to get out of this because I don't want to pay the ongoing fees. So no, it's very risky to be purchasing in a resort kind of place. No matter what people tell you, I think it's very risky. So don't go from, oh, you're going to make a bunch of money. It's like, if you're going to use it and enjoy it, then yes, let's get you the best one for your value. But also know that the people who are coming to Purgatory are, and they want to stay there, right? So you have these people that come in and they go, we only want it for Christmas, 4th of July, and name another big holiday. I can't think of another big holiday right now. President's Day. You're like, well, there goes most of the money you would have made all year. So it works best for someone that doesn't want to use it in the peak times, because let's take an example. A place that might rent for $600 a week is going to make $2,500 for the week of Christmas. So you can, if you just go a week off, then you will make a bunch of money. So people maybe that have kids that are on their family vacations and they have to do it a certain time, you can get some income coming in to just offset some of your fees, but don't go at it like you're going to actually make money. So it depends when they come, how much they come, and how much they're going to enjoy it. Just be able to help them out with that. So how do HOAs different? The HOAs up there are so different from each other. And when I was an agent, I would look at them all like a downtown agent. I would think, well, why would you spend $550 a month to own something? Like, let's say Cascade. I used to think, oh, that's the worst place. Who would ever purchase there? It's like $600 a month and it's not very big place. It's just too much to rent up there. And then once you work up there, you realize that if you are paying less money for your HOA, you probably have a lot more bills on your own. Whereas at Cascade, it's all included. Okay. So these are things to keep in mind that you're going to need. Like some of the HOAs actually have firewood. There's a little cute little Angel House is one of them. You know, you can go get the firewood. I think Cascade, you could just go get it. You know, it's cool. Like that's so awesome. Snow removal. If you're in Black Bear has a horrible time, or they used to, with ice dams, because the way it's situated, they just always have to hire people after the storms when it warms up and then cools down to chop off all the ice dams and stuff on the roof. So Cascade, I know it's only a mile up the road, but the snow load up there is insane. So they have to have a higher cost to getting that snow off the roof. So just know it just costs different amounts. If you are buying a single family, you better tell them they need someone to plow the driveway, because Engineer Village, they're not going to do that for you. These people show up, they have their tennis shoes on, they pull in and they can't even get to their house, which happens to people. So just know all this stuff. Your cell phone might not be working that well, so you want a landline so you can at least make a phone call. You do need cable and Wi-Fi. Don't ever think that you wouldn't have to purchase that if you think you're going to rent your place. So does the HOA include these? So when you're mapping this out for a customer, be savvy about, well, this is what this one includes. This is what this one doesn't. And so if you ever think you're going to do more than one sale up north, start collecting this information on some sort of Excel spreadsheet. Oh yeah. So Edelweiss, I remember. So anytime you have to learn something for a transaction, try to stick that knowledge somewhere other than in your brain, because you're going to forget it. Put it somewhere so you can remember the next time and go, oh, I know that answer. I don't have to make all the phone calls again. So does the HOA include these things? Water, sewer, trash in some places is separate. So HOA is this. I mean, just think of like Edgemont. So you have like you have the Metro, you have the HOA fees. I know Marcy and I got in trouble in a deal that I was doing with Marcy because I just couldn't remember all this stuff. You have HOA, then you have another HOA like Copperhead. That would kind of be like DMMA. Then you have that DMMA fee. Don't forget that. You have the HOA, and then you have what bills you have to pay outside of closing. Electric heat. holy crap, is that expensive, right? So if you have a little electric baseboard, just know your costs of running that are going to be so much more expensive. Is there a laundry facility in your place? Do you have to go down the hallway like at Angel House? Snow removal, more important. And do they have a reserve fund? So let's talk about this. I don't know what it is right now. I bet almost every HOA up north was run by DMMA. So DMMA does all these cool stuff for the owners, right? And you can be part of the club. And they also are kind of an HOA management company because they were set up to do that. And they did an amazing job. You go look at their reserve funds, or the reserve sheets they do. So it's like a reserve study that they did for, I'm just picking one. They did it for all their buildings, but let's say per lodge. There was a spreadsheet for the next 40 years and what year they would need to do what item. We're going to re-roof it in this thing. Oh, we're going to need to do new linoleum. Oh, we're going to have to redo the elevator. Like this was like 8 pages long. And they calculated how much money they were going to need in their budget for each of these items. They had thought ahead so much that yes, the HOA fees would kind of continually change, but they knew what they needed to do. There were no like deferred maintenance items because they knew what they had to do. Versus, I'm going to go pick on A-List. At the time, it was run by people who had owned their unit since the beginning of time when A-List first was built. And they were very cautious with their money, which I get. Like they just wanted things to be cheap for their people. So when you looked at the HOA and what they were bringing in, they had no reserve fund. So in the 2 years I was up there, there were 2 different, assessments that went into effect. One was like $8,000. I think it was like 8,000. Maybe it wasn't 8,000. It was a lot because they had to fix the elevator. The elevator was like on its last leg, needed to be fixed. You have to use an elevator to get to the places in A-List. And they had no money for it. Oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to charge you $1,500. And the owners were mad because some of them had just purchased in. They're like, well, I didn't know this was gonna happen. They might've bought the place because it was a little cheaper to run, right? So just know it depends who runs your association. It's all different and it's important. I once had a guy that actually took my advice and took his HOA docs, like the reserve, all the information, the budget, I don't know what I'm looking at, like I can tell if somebody has money in the bank, but I don't need to be studying this stuff for my customer. But he took it to an attorney, and the legal aid looked at it and gave him an opinion of whether the association was viable. And I think my guy he was an engineer. So of course, engineers want all this information. And he came back with this like nice 3-page report from the attorney. I think he paid like $200 for it. So it is great for some to just say, you really need to look into these things. Look at the reserve fund, talk to someone on the HOA board, just make sure you have a warm and fuzzy feeling about what you're purchasing into and whether they have assessments planned. I know that in 2 of the major buildings, 2 of the major buildings when I was up there that were built in the 90s were, they had their pipes done in concrete, all the pipes in between the buildings. And so 2 or 3 times a year, one would explode and just kind of destroy the unit that it exploded into, right? And it was going to cost a couple $1 million to redo all the piping in the building. It's, stacked building. I'm not going to say what it is, but they were trying to figure out as an HOA, do we redo the whole building and do the assessment and like go that direction and fix the problem? Or do we allow 1 or 2 units to just have a leak once in a while, which would always happen when no one was around and, that kind of thing. So know these things exist, that there are faults with every building and it's life. You're going to get it. And find out who runs the HOA and try to talk to somebody. Any questions on that? I'm pretty much done. Okay, getting a loan. I got 2 more things I wanted to cover. This is not like I have 3% down and I want to go buy it. They have to have 20% down. Please do your due diligence. It's not worth driving someone around. Like I know Hazel and there's some other people that I've heard your stories about how much time you spend with a customer. And then you find out like, oh, I could have asked like, oh, shoot, I didn't know that this happened. So just know HELOC is what most people do. That's a home equity line of credit. So a lot of people up there, they already own it. They're not going to go live up there, right? Most of them. So they have a house, they have equity in it. They pull home equity out of their principal residence or their second home or their third home. Not that everybody owns that. And then they buy this thing with it. And a HELOC, back when I was up there, could close in 3 weeks. You didn't have to wait for a lender. But you will need at least, if you don't have that ability, and I'd have people say, oh, I want to go the traditional route. And they go, oh, screw that. I'm just going to do a HELOC. And then it would close like a week and a half later because they had good credit and their lender wanted them to write them more money loan. No, to not use a out of area lender. We had good luck with one of those online companies. It was Rachel Brindley at the time. I said, please don't use that company. It is never going to close. And she had good luck with them always closing. But as a rule, I probably not. Oh, Quicken, for whatever reason, Quicken was doing Purg stuff all day for a while. But for the most part, please use a local lender. Back in the day where we used to always try to send people to a few different places, but Bank of Colorado was awesome because Joe, I don't think he's in that department anymore. He would be able to, he was on the loan committee, somewhere that has a loan committee. He would walk into the loan committee once a week and say, you're approved or you're not approved. And then it still took you a while to close. Kuzar, he used to be great, but I don't know what he's doing anymore. I know he's still there. Marcy, anyone you like in that kind of world? No, okay.
Nope, sorry, don't.
Nobody that you know. I think Bank of San
yeah.
Juan's, any of the local people. Okay, so I just did this stat yesterday. So 53% of sales were cash. Don't you think it would have gone up in the last couple of years? There's so much cash up there. People pay cash. It was only 43% last year. And I'm wondering if I might have done that stat differently. Like maybe I didn't take out Tamaron. Maybe Tamaron's less cash. I'll just tell you, there's a lot of cash up there. It's very often that someone says, I'm just going to pay cash. And it's not surprising. People walk in, they're in there, they're 21 and like, oh yeah, I'm just going to pay cash. I'm like, okay, well, I'll write it up for you. Don't ever assume that you're going to get a 30-year fix. Most loans up there, don't be like, I'm a little bit into this and your customer comes back and goes, yes, it's a 5-year ARM. And you go, oh my God, that's terrible. A lot of people up there, they don't want to own it for 30 years. They just want to own it while their kids are young. They're going to have fun, then they're going to sell it again. That's okay. So they want a loan that they can get really cheap for a certain amount of years. Let's say they want to own it for 3. They're going to do a 5-year ARM. They're going to be out of it. They don't have to worry. So ARMs means adjustable rate. Remember, okay. So then there's all these rules about what's a second home versus a rental property and how many days are you allowed to stay in it. So if your person wants, just know there's different kinds of loans. So your person has to be very open with their lender to say, I am going to use it in this way, because it depends on the interest rate they get quoted. So don't you be saying, oh yeah, I think the second home, I think the interest rate right now is such and such, because those things in my brain go together. Like, oh, it's a second home. Oh, it's a vacation rental. Oh, it's the same thing, right? No, it's like, just depends exactly on their interest. And that's what a good lender is for. So don't also let them be shocked if they come in and say, oh, I think I can get a loan for this. If they haven't looked into it, it can be a little surprising. So how to handle furniture, I'm not really going to get into this. Just know that DMMA costs used to be traditionally split, but I bet if you're in a competing situation, I would not be losing the place over $1,000. Like, just pay the 2% at closing. And then how to handle furniture included with a lender. It was traditional for us to always, we have this personal property agreement, and it came up while Gina has been on the forms committee with the state. She has always, I'm pretty sure she agreed that you always put the furniture in your offer. Put the furniture in the offer. Say what you want. Say how much you're going to pay. It's clean. It's easy, right? And then what happens is you get it under contract. And if it does go through a loan, the lender will then ask you to take it out of the contract. It's fine. This is normal. So then you do a personal property agreement for the furniture. And if it's furniture of value, like not at a thrift store kind of furniture, you're going to reduce the price of the house by a little bit. And you're going to say what the furniture is worth separately. That gets closed. They transfer the money at closing, but it's just not part of the loan. So just know that you usually just write a clean offer, get it under contract, then deal with whether the lender needs it taken out. I know Lindsay just closed on one, and I think it was $400,000 worth of furniture and 2 dogs. Maybe it was 200, but it was a lot of money, and they had to do it a certain way to make everybody happy. Property managers to have at your side. I know Purg Rentals, there's Premier. I don't know what they're called anymore. They have that new name, Chris Pattine's company. And I know, God, Lori Naylor is a good one. I have a sheet with all of these on it. So if you need it, it's not the same as the people in town. It's not going to be an AREM. And don't always say, oh, I always go to Premier. I always go to Purg. They're different. So you could ask, let's say you have Rachel that has you under contract on the other side. You can say, hey, Rachel, who's been the property manager for this condo? Do you think they're the best one for this condo? Because one, Keith Brandt at Premier could be really good in this one building, but he doesn't do a good job in another building because he doesn't have a lot of rentals and people don't happen to rent from him. Purgatory might do really well at Purg Lodge, but they might really stink across the street. So just know that all these things exist. And lastly, I'm not going to share this slide, but I want you to understand what makes a resort agent different. Well, I will share it with you, but I'm not going to give it to you in a file that you can download. This is what Bill would do. This is what a resort agent does in order to show the value to a client. He spent months creating these spreadsheets, and he would give this to each person. So he has separate sheets for each, like Kendall 2-bedroom, Kendall 3-bedroom. It's a Purg Lodge 2-bedroom. And he knows what the HOAs are. He knows what, how much down, how many, what's the vacancy on them? Will they rent 80% of the year? Will they rent 20% of the year? He creates these spreadsheets and he can literally do it in like 15 minutes. And so it'll be like Village Center 614. So these were all ones on the market. Actually, this was one I did, but let's say 614 versus Kendall versus Peregrine Point. He'd map them all out and say, see, you're going to lose money on all of them, but know that you're going to lose less money on this one if you do it, if you care about income. And that way they can look at it and go, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for doing it. And he would even go so far as to put, how much they can write off on all these different things. I didn't get into that because that just seems scary. You're getting into this financial world that we shouldn't be part of. But you see how he could like break it down into a real investment for someone. So know that us kind of half flying by the seat of our pants, going up and showing a few things up there and trying to do the best we can for a customer is really different than someone that does it all day. So know that this is like their expertise and lean on them when you don't understand something to try to get it right. But there's a lot of digging for information you're going to have to go to if you're selling one for the first time or you just aren't familiar with the areas up there. So get help when you need it. Usually they're even happy to walk you up there and to let you into the place. Be careful about that because obviously you don't want your buyer to be mouthing off about, oh, I just love this unit, I'll pay anything for it. So if you're using an agent up there, just kind of let them know, just keep your mouth closed about whether you like the place or not until we get out of the room with them. But that's it. I took this slide out. It was just some of the stuff they were planning on with Double Diamond and the hotel. I don't really know, that was pre-COVID. So what's going on with that? And I know like they did the Infernos up, and they were doing all this realignment for, see, this is Purg base and doing the lifts, but I don't know how far any of that is. I haven't been following any of that recently, but Purg questions, I thought that would be quick, but it wasn't. I was getting my juju back. Anything?